deschidere economia partidei. Delgado acolo este, va fi corner, dragi ascultători.
Okay, hello guys, and welcome back to Driving with Dunks. Yes, I am driving. I'm not driving my own car. I have, long story short, been lent a car by my absolute best buddy in the whole world, Jimmy. You guys don't know him, but Jimmy and I have been mates since forever, and he was my best man at my wedding and everything, and he is the shit. And he has thankfully got a few cars, and one of them being this sort of older X5, which is a godsend. So big shout out to Jimmy, big thank you, Jimmy. Please give him your love from the comment section. So today, what am I going to talk about? Today I thought I would try and do a vlog on a kind of, I guess from an actor's perspective. I do produce as well, but like kind of from a from an actor's perspective on budgets and how those are changing, and kind of how they are affecting audience perception. I suppose it's in light of having a film coming out soon called Fistful of Lead. You guys should have seen the preview of the trailer that we posted on the channel by now. If not, please go check it out because it's really cool. Very, very proud of getting to work with the people involved. I think it's going to be a good one. But it sort of prompted me to kind of think, let's talk about audience perception and audience expectation when it comes to budget size, because nowadays there really is no mid-tier budget, you know, that used to be back in the day. I mean, firstly, this is also in conjunction with the fact that the barriers to entry, if you like, for lack of a better word, are lower. So it's cheaper to make films generally now, but that has brought with it, it's really killed the middle ground. It used to be, as an actor, you know, you look, I mean, there's lots of examples. It was usually sort of horror movies. Matthew McConaughey, for example, was in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, I want to say, with Renee Zellweger, before they became who they were, obviously, through bigger films. But you know, that still was a film with that could command a budget, you know, something half decent. I mean, people often talk about Terminator as being this incredibly low budget thing, but it was still in the millions. You know, it still had a budget of, was it I forget now, whatever it was. I mean, you know, it's still millions of dollars, you know. And all right, it's an effects film, and I get that that's still relatively low budget for what they wanted to achieve, and that's not to take anything away from them, because they did obviously created one of the most indelible films in the world, or in history. But nowadays you're not talking that, and you're talking a few grand, you know, a few tens of thousands of pounds anyway, to make an entire feature film. And people do it, and they produce stuff that looks like it costs way more. And then of course the narrative that's spun is that it did cost more, because obviously they want people to think that, because, you know, there's nothing more off-putting than saying this film cost 10 quid, because people don't want to go and see a 10 quid film, do they? And that's fair enough, and I get where that's coming from, but it is this sort of self-perpetuating, not downward spiral, but it is a feedback loop of sorts, which is frustrating. And I've come to realise that middle gap in budgets has created quite a no man's land for performers and actors to cross, because, you know, for example, right now I am in a situation where I have a lot of credits to my name, a lot of work, a lot of good work, and I don't just mean my own, but I mean, you know, the projects I've been involved with are very good, you know, very immensely proud of them. But being able to make that leap from lower tier to the big time I don't think has ever really been harder, because I find it that, like, I'm not in a position where, you know, as I've discussed before, you know, I'm not famous. So for people in the higher ends of casting directors and so forth to look at me and go, yes, I can put you in, because of your association with hair, you know, it's very hard because they don't, and I understand that. I mean, I get it. Like it is hard for them, and this is not a criticism. You know, it's just that there isn't that next step. You know, the next step is a big thing, and I guess the next thing for me would be to get into a 6-part drama or something. You know. That could then lead on and lead on, and so really the bridging of the gap now is sort of TV. But I think because of that the vacuum that's now been left because of the eradication and of mid-tier budgets. And when I say mid-tier budgets, I mean I'm really talking sort of anywhere from between $1 million, I guess pounds, but you know, dollars to even lower, right up to hundreds of millions. You know, I mean, they're just this sort of $60 million thing does happen, but it's like, I think Logan was around that, you know, and things like Alien Covenant was 90 million and stuff. So I suppose you could consider those mid-tier, but there's you know, I'm talking like most of the stuff I make is for around about, well, most of the stuff I've been involved in. Sorry, I shouldn't say make it because obviously I didn't direct it, but most of that stuff is lower. Let's say lower, because I don't want to be specific, because that's not fair to the filmmakers, and you know, that's their business. But it's a lot lower, and you know, and that's okay. And you understand that, like, look, this is about getting your foot in a door or getting a start. But the trouble is, I think as things go on, it feels increasingly unlikely that you're going to get that the next one will be bigger and bigger and bigger, because chances are it won't. And it's very hard to eke out a living like that. Well, it's impossible, really, to be honest. You know, again, that's okay. But it does often feel like you could be doing this for a long time, you know, or forever, in fact, and kind of spinning your wheels, and it's really hard to kind of think how to make that leap. Now, I don't think that, I have to be careful here, but I don't think that from the actor's perspective, the job itself, you know, and the films I'm talking about, versus I went to the premiere for Aquaman on Monday, so that's the most recent sort of big budget thing that I have in my head, and the job as an actor on that versus the job on something like Fistful of Lead kind of isn't any different. There's a lot more green screen involved, I'll give them that, so there's a lot more imagining scenarios that aren't in front of you, but you know, and then there's, I guess, all the press junkets and stuff, so just going around and selling it, but that's a different thing. But the job itself, I don't know. And I've done movies with nothing budgets, but with amazing scripts, and that are more challenging as an actor. And so I sort of think, well, I don't know, is it fair? No, it's never going to be fair. That's nothing is going to be fair in life, really, and that's something you have to sort of throw out. But I think, like, as an audience member, you've got to, you know, when you I suppose nowadays people really have to be able to take their head off and plug into low budget versus, you know, because it's not fair. Like, if you look at A Fistful of Lead, for example, and then judge it by the standards that you're used to, like, I don't know, like if you looked at that and went, well, it's not as cool as Westworld, or it's not as cool as 310 to Yuma, or it's not as broad scope as something like that. You've got to remember that, like, there is not the budget to do that, and it's not, you know, I mean, it's difficult. I mean, like, I get, like, you know, audience members' opinions are valid just like anyone else's, but I suppose where it becomes frustrating is that people get distracted and sidelined by the look of a thing, or the apparent cheapness of a thing, and that's not, I just don't see the point. I just feel that that's quite a reductive thing to talk about, because, yeah, alright, I get that it looks cheap, but then it was cheap, and, like, you know, do you want these things to be made, or do you want just to go and see the latest big Hollywood thing that you know, look, there's a lot of good stuff that I think Christopher Nolan and people like him are the flag bearers for intelligent, high concept, high budget cinema, and long may that continue, because I think it's fantastic. But you know, if all the low end stuff went away, and by low end I mean low budget, obviously not low quality, if all that went away, firstly, you wouldn't have anything for people starting out, or even people who've been in it for 10 years to have to be doing. So there would be no first step for anyone. And secondly, like I think the way that things are going, I think with the likes of Netflix and stuff like that, all this content is going to be key. It's going to be really, really key. And it's going to offer you an awful lot more choice. But I suppose the thing you've got to remember is that people are getting squeezed on their budgets, and so you know you're likely to get an awful lot of content, some of which you're going to have to sift through. But I think that it's all worth it. I mean, I did a film called The Witches of Dumpling Farm that's currently I just signed the release form the other day. Now that was ridiculously low, but I mean nothing budget. It was the director funded it himself, and we shot it over the course of I think 2 or 3 years, like getting it on weekends when we could, and all that kind of thing. And it's gone and done some film festivals, and it's going to get there's a distributor interest. There was a few distributors interested. I don't know to what degree, but they're working a deal out on that. Now that'll get something, but you know, odds are to the general population, the gen pop, they are going to look at that and go, "Oh, it looks shit," or "Low budget looks shit." Look past all the hard work and everything that's gone into it, and the fact that you know this is a labour of love. And I guess people don't care, and that's fine. But I suppose the gulf between reality and perception of the film industry and what it is to be an actor and what low budget filmmaking is widening too. And I wonder if there is that correlation between the disappearance of the mid-level budget, the mid-tier budget, specifically in film, and the widening of that gulf, both for audience expectation and for actor ascendance, if you like, or career advancement. It can't be a coincidence. As we know, correlation doesn't exactly equal causation, but I think there's something in it. And when you look at all the films that people often talk about as being frustrating that they don't make anymore, I think again that comes down to that, because there's no one's taking a punt. It's all got to be an absolute sure thing, and they will bet the farm on it every time, because it's kind of like, well, $300 million cannot fail, absolutely cannot fail. One way or another, it cannot fail, because it's too big a thing. You know, it's too big to fail. And so people would rather, I guess, put money into those than they would into risk 60 million on I don't know, on an idea, or on taking a punt. And that's a shame. But it is, I understand it. It's not, it doesn't come from an evil corporate desire. No, it isn't that. I don't believe in this sort of like othering of studio execs, or just, because it's too easy. It's too easy to just blame, people at the top and go like, oh, well, they just want money. It's like, well, they have a freaking business to run, and it's a big business, and making movies is expensive, man. It's interesting to look at how the disappearance of that mid-level budget has impacted both us as performers and audiences in how they see it. And I don't think people are aware of it, but I think it's created a vacuum. Now, what will fill that vacuum, I don't know. And actually, that's quite exciting when you think about it. I mean, I think actually the re-emergence, when it happens, of that tier or strata of filmmaking will be a very interesting one, because I think you hopefully it will be flooded with filmmakers who have been used to making stuff for next to nothing, and it will help them realise an awful lot. It's frustrating, as is much of this industry, but we love it, and couldn't do anything else, unfortunately. So there we are. That's my inane ramblings for today, and I don't know if it's of any interest to any of you. I feel like I do go off on one. I apologise. I'll edit this down so that it's not so boring. But yeah, there we are. Any other things you want me to discuss? There's lots of things I think about occasionally that maybe I'll talk about, but any ideas, anything you think would be of interest, please drop me a note in the comment section, and I'll do my best. And until then, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, please hit the notification bell, check out Patreon, check out redbubble.com with our merchandise on it. Please, anything helps. I know I bang the drum for that, but it's a massive help. So thank you so much, and I'll talk to you again soon. Take care.
Support your 7th or 8th favourite YouTube channel by buying crap, tat, junk, hogwash and filth at redbubble.com/people/Valverde shop.